Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello and welcome to Game Over Vancouver / Game Over Calgary. I'm Kaja Antic here with Peter Klein, and the Vancouver Canucks just beat the Calgary Flames 3-1 at Rogers Arena. And before we get into talking a bit more about the game, check out the flagship show of the Game Over Network on the Game Over Network main channel, Hyperdrive Hockey, all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries. Whatever it is and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on the Hyperdrive Hockey page at thegameovernetwork.com. Okay, Peter, if you could give the Flames a letter grade for their performance tonight, um, just tonight, 60 minutes on ice effort, what would you give them?
I think if you were to just watch this, like you said, like your consumption of hockey started at the puck drop and lasted right until the final whistle, then this is a D at best. It was not a great performance from the Flames. I have no doubt that we got everything that the Flames had tonight. It just wasn't a whole lot. Offensively, they didn't create a whole lot of opportunities. Defensively, they gave up a bunch of them, and special teams didn't go their way either. So, aside from all of those things, Dan Vladar gets A plus 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 because he was tremendous. But aside from that, everyone else was doo doo. I think is the correct term for that. So yeah, not the best of nights for the Calgary Flames.
So, in other words, they're representing my GPA. Um, that's a joke. I am good at school. Yeah, Dan Vladar, honestly, the first period I was like, okay, we're gonna lose at home to the Flames again. This is a repeat of the home opener. It's happening again. What is going on? So yeah, Dan Vladar earned, oh my gosh, I can't remember, kudos to him. I was thinking of another word, but I could not think of it. Um, on the Canucks side, I would say it was probably a B, B plus
Okay.
range. I mean, I don't think it was the best game they've ever played. No, okay. I think I'm being too harsh. I would say it's probably around an A minus A range. It's not the best game they've played, but it's but it's one of the best, if not the best game they've played this season. Um, just from an overall standpoint, Elias Pettersson, like he had an amazing game. Aside from everything that happened in Saturday night's game against the Oilers, he had a pretty good game. And then tonight, on his 26th birthday, he gets the goal, he gets the assist, he reaches 420 points in the National Hockey League. And yeah, he's 10th now in all-time, wait, where is it? 10th all-time franchise points.
Already, hey,
Yeah,
I got like 20 is a lot. So that, I mean, that checks out. It kind of feels like he just kind of arrived. And now, I mean, obviously he is getting paid very handsomely to do so, but that's, no, credit to him. And all the talk coming into this was about how, wow, he needs to get going and he needs to do this and he needs to do that. And now it's 3 goals in 4 games and you just see it. And it still doesn't, at least from my perspective, you're obviously a little bit more in it than I am, but, um, it still doesn't seem like he is all the way back to his full powers. He hasn't, whatever the hockey version of Space Jam is, the aliens took his powers away, and he has not been able to get all of them back from the puck yet. But he's really close, and I thought he was really good. And I would agree that maybe you were initially maybe a little bit too hard on the Canucks with that B plus grade. Again, with the understanding that they were not up against the most resistance tonight for the Flames, I thought Vancouver looked good. And I thought one of the other things, maybe not necessarily complete team effort, but you saw a lot of the things you wanted to, right? Like Pettersson gets going. Lekkerimaki looks quite good. And that shot would have beat a building. And like JT Miller is playing pretty well. At points. Like it checked a lot of the boxes that you wanted to see from a Canucks perspective. So will this on the Canucks season YouTube recap show, will we be looking back at November 12th as a turning point that led this team and a game we will never forget? Probably not. But in terms of what it meant and what it needed to be, I thought it was exactly what Vancouver needed.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk a little bit more about Lekkerimaki later. And just for reference, so Elias Pettersson, he hit 421 points tonight with his goal and his
Okay.
assist. But he hit 420 on the way there because
Right. Okay.
when he hit 420, he was tied for 10th with former Canucks captain Bo Horvat. The
Oh, okay.
next, yeah, I think Petey makes it up to 7th on the list this season. That's my prediction. Because he has to pass Todd Bertuzzi at 449, which probably easy. Tony Tanti at 470 and Pavel Bure at 478.
Okay, getting into some pretty good company up there, I would
Yeah.
say, when you're chatting along with Pavel Bure. Yeah, that's you're doing all right.
I think he passes Pavel Bure, and then it's Thomas Gradin with 550, Stan Smeel 673, then Lyndon Naslin, Sedin. So
Right.
he's working
Then you
his
get
way
up to the guys whose names are in the rafters. So getting into pretty good company after that.
Yeah, pretty much. 5 and up. Well, Bure as well, but
Yeah.
that was because he got to the Hall of Fame. But they didn't do that for the little Longo. Anyway, he got Ring of Honor and he said that was fine. So you know what? That's okay with me. But yeah, Elias Pettersson, Eric Brandstrom, Senators legend, also gets on the score sheet his first goal as a Canuck, and I closed the wrong tab. First goal as a Canuck, Elias Pettersson gets the assist. He basically creates the play along with Jake DeBrusk, who Jake DeBrusk is on a 5-game point streak after being like unnoticeable, basically for like the little beginning part of the season. He's a 5-game point streak. He had goals in, I'm pretty sure, all of the games on the California road trip and has assists in the last 2. Pia Suter, he's just awesome. He's 6 goals on the season already, and that's more than Elias Pettersson. Not to like play down what Elias Pettersson is doing whatsoever, because they're very different players. At the same time, he's definitely an underrated member of this Canucks roster, and I think he was last year, and I think he's even building on that as well. But yeah, let's talk about Mr. Costco.
Yeah.
Justin
That's
Kirkland.
the joy of every joke on social media. He has been could possibly want from a emergency fourth line center call up. That this team does not have a whole lot of depth at center, and even with him playing well, they still don't. But he has been just what you want. He's not coming in and trying to do too much. He just, I go in straight line, I crash into things, and sometimes puck bounce off me and in net. That is basically what he has been out there to do, and he's done such a great job with it. And it has been a nice little revelation to have him go out there and do that. Especially at some times like tonight, there wasn't a whole lot going offensively, and so for that fourth line to get that going, I thought was really nice. And they've done a good job with a few different people on that line of actually getting some momentum going a little bit. And I think on that goal tonight, Vancouver didn't seem to be expecting necessarily the speed that fourth line can bring, because you see it out there and it's, oh yeah, it's Lomberg, Rooney, and Kirkland. Oh, that's funny because it's Casca, right? Like, you don't think of like, oh man, these guys are going to be blazing and it's going to be speed and it's going to be tough. And then all of a sudden, Rooney makes a strong play. He gets a step, puts it on goal. And then Hughes kind of seems like he's just like, okay, I got this one. And now there's just a guy on me and it's in. And they have been able to catch a few guys and a few teams off guard with that so far. And it's been a bit of a dynamic that this this team hasn't really had before, in especially last year. But they would tend to use the fourth line as well. We kind of have to because they won't let us just draft 12 or just 12 players. So here's three more that we just get to throw out there, or don't let us dress nine. Sorry. Here's just three more guys that we have to just for salary cap purposes. So the fact that the fourth line is out there and it's actually creating and it's getting some momentum going is really really nice. And I think Kirkland, when he got called up, it was more just an expectation that this guy's only going to be here for a couple of games. He's going to do a couple of things. We'll make some Costco jokes, talk about hot dogs, and he'll be on his way. And he's stuck. And it has 100% been a credit to him and the way that he has played, because this team would have had every opportunity to send him down, and he just hasn't allowed it so far. It's been really cool to see.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it the first game of the season, and I was just like, huh, yeah, Costco. And then it was his first NHL goal, and there was the graphic that we had on the Game Over Instagram account. Um, and if you aren't following that, you definitely should. And yeah, and then tonight, Quinn Hughes makes a rare mistake, as many people in the Canucks sphere can attest to. That does not happen a lot, but Quinn Hughes makes the rare mistake in the final minute of the first period, and the Canucks allow the first goal for the eighth consecutive game.
Ooh,
Yeah. I don't know
tough
what.
way to go about life. Just trying to chase all the time. That's tough.
Yeah, it's either they're chasing or they get the lead and then they lose the lead and have to rebuild it back up. Like it's it's not been good. Um yeah, I don't love that they have allowed the first goal in every single game. Basically for how long is 8 games? That's like 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's not a good sign that you're doing well defensively.
Yeah.
Even
That's a tenth of the season. That's not nothing.
exactly. And like I'm not sure if it's time to ring alarm bells or anything, but I don't know. If this team was doing worse than it already was, which I mean, they're not doing awful. I'll say that. Like, and sometimes it feels like they're doing awful, like after Saturday. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not worried yet, but I'm a little worried.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's not like they were soundly outplayed or anything like that in the first period, right? Like that they were the better team for most of this game, and it's just one of Calgary's chances happened to go in. Like that you can certainly, I'm sure, over an 8 game stretch, there's something actionable that you can take off of this. But for this game in particular, it was just kind of, well, no, we were the better team, but they just their puck happened to go in first, and then we did it a bunch and we won. Like that there isn't a whole lot that I think from a Canuck perspective, a whole lot of alarm bells. But yeah, when it keeps happening, eventually you have to look at like, okay, something's going on here that we need to figure out.
Yeah, like the human brain is meant to recognize patterns and pattern recognition. This is not one of the good patterns. So they need to get that in check. Otherwise, yeah, like you said, it's not necessarily that they were the worst team in that first period. The Flames had some moments, the Canucks had some moments. I felt like it was more honestly evenly matched in that first period before the Canucks really got their game going. Um, but yeah, Vinny Desharnais almost got his first goal as a Canuck and his second career goal and second career goal against the Flames as well. But no, Danton Heinen had to take a penalty, and I almost wore my Surrey Eagles toque just to be like, yeah, Danton Heinen, he cost Vinny Desharnais his second career goal. Um, Also, Connor Garland and Kiefer Sherwood on the penalty kill. I am so sorry. I am so sorry that we subjected you to that. Like,
Yeah, that was a look. That's for sure. Yeah.
that was a look. That's just like when somebody opens their door and their dogs run out and start going after the person that's visiting the house. That's what it feels
Yeah.
like when those two are on the penalty kill together. personally, I love it. If I'm playing against them, probably wouldn't love it, but
Yeah, no, that was not an enjoyable experience. Also, the Flames' power play has been awful, and they have been giving up a lot of shorthanded opportunities as well. And so, with that kind of
yeah.
a pressure, it was just a matter of time before. Oh yeah, there's a 2-on-1 like 30 seconds into the first power play. Fantastic. So yeah, that was a little bit annoying to have to deal with all night, and probably at least part of Kuzmenko's frustrations in trying to pile Garland into the Flames bench at some point.
Yeah, that was interesting. I don't know if he was trying to force another trade between the Flames and the Canucks there.
Yeah,
But yeah, that I was surprised that Garland didn't get the call there. Like honestly, I it felt like he initiated that because like even with the Canucks, I didn't see Kuzmenko take that many penalties, and it seems like
right.
Garland is more in that zone, but I guess whoever gets caught is the one that gets put in the box. I thought it was funny how the probably like the two least penalized guys the last couple years in the Canucks both got penalties in the third period with Elias Pettersson and Andre Kuzmenko. Cause
Yeah.
yeah, Elias
If
Pettersson
you were going to do a fantasy
interference.
draft of people who are sorry, if you were going to get a fantasy draft people who are going to take penalties in this game, those would have been toward the bottom, and then all of that breaking out, it was just like, really, these guys? But yes, it was noted on the Flames broadcast that maybe that could have been a both guys go instead of just the Calgary guy. But I mean, at that point, it was like, yeah, I mean, it's not like what Kuzmenko did wasn't a penalty. So I always find those a little bit tough to argue. It's like, yeah, I know our guy was a dick, but so was theirs. How dare he? I feel like those are fun to argue sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think Garland should have gotten a call there too. But I don't know. Maybe the refs were feeling extra friendly after they went to Cactus for some peach bellinis or something. I don't know. Um, yeah, I overall I think the Canucks played well. It is a Flames team that is not I don't want to say not the same Flames team they saw a month ago because again, it was only a month ago and it was pretty much the same Flames team. At the same time, depends where you are in the stats. The Flames also they come into this on a back to back. They won last night. Um,
Yes.
yeah, against I watched the
The
game.
Kings,
Yeah,
Los Angeles Kings. Yeah.
Los Angeles. I watched the game and I could not remember. Um, because I remember seeing the Huberto goal and I was like, oh. But yeah, the Flames coming in on a back to back. They had to travel presumably today to Vancouver, which weather's not fun right now in Vancouver. It's November. They had to travel presumably today to Vancouver and get prepared to play after they already played an entire game last night. And I understand the Flames are not doing the same thing that the Canucks are to Kevin Lankinen, in that he is playing every single game. God help
Hmm.
him. Like you had Wolf last night and then Vladar tonight, and both are very good, very capable goalies.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the Flames just they came out with a force in the first period and then kind of got tired as the game went on.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't just that there was a game last night, but it was how they played in that one. The buzz around the market here the last 24 hours has been like that's the type of effort that the Flames need to play with if they're going to be successful and talking about all of those things. And it's like that's fantastic. But now the next part of it and the next part of the evolution for what is still a fairly young Flames team is like, okay, it's great and we love the effort and that's exactly what you guys need to do all the time. You do have to do it again, though. This isn't football where you just get, okay, it's Sunday and now we don't play again until Sunday. Say, okay, it's Monday and now we don't play again until Tuesday. So go out there and do it again. And so, well, yeah, it was great that they did that effort against the LA Kings. You did kind of have to expect that maybe there was going to be a bit of a letdown here, and there certainly was that. So I don't think that the Flames dogged it by any stretch of the imagination. I just think they genuinely didn't have a whole lot. And then Conrad mentioned it in the Calgary Discord that we have over at Game Over. I thought it was a bit of a tactical error to not change the lineup at all, save for the goaltender. I don't. If you are going to be carrying extra players and then you do not use extra players when you have 2 games in less than 24 hours, I wonder why you are bringing extra players along with you. Like it doesn't that this is exactly what they are there for. And I understand there's a coaching thing where it's like, well, we just won. Why would we change the lineup? It's because if you've played video games, the stamina bar is like that big. So let's throw a couple of other people in there and at least get a jump. And I am not saying that a Hanley or whoever, whatever sixth defenseman the Flames are going to throw out there was going to make the difference in this game. But it certainly would have helped more than whatever that was that we saw from this team, because I just thought they were bagged by the end of it.
Yeah, definitely. They need a bit of a break. They need to show that effort, but also in a sustainable way. Um,
Right.
like I know that's probably a word that's banned in the province of Alberta, but sustainable, sorry. Um, sustainability with that energy is something they need to keep a watch on. I feel like the Canucks also had that problem with they had the 3 game road stint and then they came back to play against Edmonton. They were absolutely bagged, basically.
Yeah.
So I understand that part. The Canucks also haven't played a back to back yet this season. I think
Really?
their first one, we got niced for the beginning of the season. No, their first one is this weekend. So they play Saturday night and then they play Sunday afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, I think it's like 22 hours between puck drops. So thank you, NHL. Anyway, oh, and the Sunday game is also the same day as the Grey Cup next door. So
Oh,
thank you,
good. Oh,
NHL.
that's not going to be a problem at all.
Oh, definitely not. Anyway, um, I also want to touch a little bit. The Canucks scored a power play goal for I don't want to say the first time in forever because it it hasn't been, but also the power play has just not been good to start the season, so I feel like that we should highlight that. Also, the second unit, including Arshdeep Bains instead of Niels Hoglander, is a choice. One has 1 goal in his career. The other has like 20 something times that, I think. Like he had 24
Yeah.
last year, all even strength goals. Like I know, all even strength. At the same time, just put him on the power play. It's the second unit. They play for like 30 seconds. Rick, just do one thing, please. I understand you like this kid, and people may say fan service or whatever because he's a local kid. At the same time, it makes more sense to have Niels Hoglander on that unit. I don't know.
Yeah, and like you see that one chance he had where he came off the bench and just unleashed hell on
Oh
the
yeah.
puck. And like if this is a like 2000s era video game, again video game reference, the goalie is flying into the net. Like he put everything he had into that. And obviously, like we have all seen various different clips of him doing silly things at various different levels with the stick handling and pucks and all that. Like he's an incredibly talented human being when it comes to the sport of hockey. So I am a little bit surprised as well that that there wasn't more or any utilization of him on the power play. And I was also a little bit surprised. I know we're going to get to a little bit more of Lekkerimaki's game in a little bit, but they just power play unit number one. All right, just head out there, kid. That was that was it was neat to see because that's the type of opportunity he is going to be getting for most of his career, I would assume. So it was nice to see him out there initially, but I thought it was a little bit surprising to like his rookie lap was 3 minutes ago, and now he's out on the first power play unit. I thought that was quite the look for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think I was just before we move on to talking a bit more about Lekkerimaki, I just wanted to mention that do you think Rick Talk is on the same Tortorella wavelength of hating the Michigan and that's why he doesn't play Niels Hoglander?
It could be, yes. If any coach was going to feel that way about the Michigan, it would 100% be Rick Tocchet. So I could see where that wouldn't necessarily kind of mix there a little bit. Pedersen's not as hot doggy about it, but he can do a couple like skilly type moves as well. Now, his work. But there's like he is someone who you wouldn't think would jive with Talkit as well, and that seems to be one that he has kind of worked over. So yeah, the Hoglander one has been interesting for a bit because again, you see every clip of him, and it seems like this kid is just destined to score 20 to 25 goals for the rest of his life in the NHL. But then anytime there's anything in Vancouver, it's and Hoglander's been demoted. It's like it seems weird, at least from the outside anyway.
To me, I feel like he should be an Alex Burrows type. Like thinking
Yeah.
back to
Oh, that would
like,
be good. Yeah.
oh yeah, like thinking back to kind of that era of the Canucks. Anyway, I digress. Before we get into our little second period segment here, I wanted to shout something out that I wrote on Blue Sky for a little self promo. 3 things in life are certain: death, taxes, and Andrei Kuzmenko giving up the puck. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Couple times you shot there. When you have a clear shot at the net, sometimes taking the clear shot is good, and not doing a behind the back pass might not be the way to go on that. Hashtag never played the game, but I feel like when you have shot at net or behind back pass covered, just shoot. It's right there. Just shoot it.
or just like stick handling 5 times. He's like the Fafa Pico of the NHL. Like just keeps like that's a Whitecaps reference if anybody gets it. Just moving around the object that you're supposed to score with, but not actually doing anything with it. Um. Anyway, before we talk a little bit more about Jonathan Lekkerimaki's debut, Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode, you'll find a link to our Patreon page, and we're also working on a page through LaRouche, a crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. For LaRouche, we're aiming to raise $15,000, and if we hit that goal, we'll gain access to government grants that will allow us to employ more people. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see as giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, let us know in the comments on Twitter, Instagram, or our Discord server. Alright, so tonight was the first NHL game for the Canucks 2022 draft pick, Jonathan Lekkerimaki. He was 15th overall in 2022. The one of 2 first-round picks the Canucks have made in the last 4 years. Oh, no, last 5 years. Last 5 years. You guys took our 2024. Dylan Guenther was our 2021. But that's at Arizona. And then I'm pretty sure the 2020 got lost in the Toffoli trade. So we've picked 2 first-round picks.
That one's worth it.
Yeah. And then betting happened. We've picked 2 first-rounders in the last 5 years. And Jonathan Lekkerimaki is one of them. He made his NHL debut tonight. Did not factor in any points on the score sheet, but he had a pretty decent game. His parents were in attendance. He had 4, Mark, who's another one of the Game Over Vancouver hosts, said in the chat, he had 4 minutes and 20 seconds of ice time in the first. So, very John Shorthouse coded. He had 20 shifts throughout the game, so I mean that's pretty good. 2 shots, a hit, 2 giveaways, but I mean he's also what, like 19? He's 20. He just turned 20. I feel so old.
Stop.
He's like a year and a half younger than me. But yeah, 14 minutes and 7 seconds of ice time. He had 5 minutes more than Niels Hoglander. And I think that's also because he had that power play time. So he's on the first power play unit where Brock Besser would be. Because Brock Besser out indefinitely because of Tanner Jeannot still having an NHL jersey for some reason. From an outsider perspective, because I know there's a lot of hype for Lekkerimaki in the Vancouver market, from an outsider's perspective, what was your interpretation of his game tonight?
Hey, I was really impressed, and we were kind of talking about it a bit before we came on. He was one where when the Canucks were trading, or sorry, when the Flames were trading half of their roster, and the Canucks kept coming up in, oh, we want this guy, and this guy, and this guy, and this guy. I had kind of mentioned like, okay, yes, that's the kid I want though, because he played well, I believe, at the World Juniors. He played well at something I watched, and like you see the offensive upside, right? He can skate pretty well. That shot is ridiculous, and that's something the Flames don't have a lot of in the system right now. Sharon Govich is someone who has a good shot, but aside from that, to steal the basketball term, the Flames don't have a lot of guys who can score from distance, and Lekkerimaki seems like he can be that kind of a guy. And then you see him tonight, and he didn't look overly out of place, right? Like he didn't come out here and dominate this game or anything like that, but he looked like he fit in for the most part. And like you just see that early on, he gets that good zone entry. It's a give and go with Suter, and he just misses the redirect. And they got the fun video of his parents doing a quick little where it looked like he might have had an opportunity there, and he didn't quite get it. But that does lead to some good zone time, and it was either a goal that came off of that or a penalty. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure it was a goal with the pressure that he was putting on. Either way, it was just a anyway, it doesn't matter. He was putting good pressure on, and I thought just again didn't look out of place. And so for what you are looking for from a former first overall pick who is playing his first NHL game, I thought, like I said before, I thought he checked most of the boxes tonight.
Yes, and first, yeah. Canucks have not had the luck of a first overall in franchise history, ever, dating back to 1970. I'm still normal about it. But yeah, Lekkerimaki, he had 10 points in 7 games at this past World Juniors in 2024,
Yeah.
with Sweden.
Okay. Yeah, that is the one I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Sweden, of course, because that's the one country that we draft from, apparently. So,
I mean, it's gone pretty well.
yeah,
To be fair, he's had some success. You know,
there's blue on the Canucks jersey. There's blue on the Swedish flag. It makes sense. Speaking of,
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Pettersson jersey right now, so I feel like I could say that it's one of those reverse retros that looks like a Sprite from a couple years ago. But I'm wearing it because it's his birthday. So happy birthday, Elias Pettersson. You're now 10th all time in points for the Canucks. Yeah, he had 10 points for Sweden at the World Juniors past year. He played 7 games for the Abbotsford Canucks this year. This season so far. The Abbotsford Canucks have not been doing well, to put it very lightly. But in the 7 games he's played, he has 5 goals and 2 assists. So, been pretty
That'll
good. Do. Guess what his plus minus is though?
Oh, jeez. On not a good team, I'll still say +2.
It's in the negatives. It's -8.
Oh no. Not just in the negatives. Like we're
in hell.
We're getting on the first page of the Masters leaderboard with that one. That's tricky. Yeah, that's tough.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, it's not been good. I mean, that's where I think he differs a bit from. I don't know if it's an easy comparison, but Pettersson, because Pettersson at least has like that defensive aspect to his game, whereas like Lekkerimiki's, I mean, also Abbotsford has been bleeding goals, so I mean, there's that. Because I think they had a game a couple nights ago where they didn't allow like an insane amount of goals, and it was because they brought Shilovs down for the night and then brought him back up the next day. So there's that. I don't know. I don't want to, because the goalies that we have in Abbotsford are super young, so I don't want to like bash on them too much, but there's that. Yeah, he didn't get any points. There was a feeling that he would for a little bit there. I think that he's going to fit into the system. I mean, I'm a little worried as a Brock Besser fan if this is spelling the end of like, oh, we have this right winger who can do all this stuff. Bye-bye. Like, oh, and he's blonde too. Like, it makes sense. But no, I think
Yeah.
I think because you have Miller, Besser, And then if you have Lekkerimaki on the wing for Pedersen, a Höglander, Pedersen, Lekkerimaki line just sounds amazing to me. At the same time, I know
Yeah.
Höglander performed better when he was in the bottom six, but I do think he
Oh,
deserves.
okay.
Yeah, I do think he deserves a shot higher in the lineup. At the same time, Garland is also playing well. Was also playing well on that line with them, but I just think that all Swedish line that's gonna be awesome to see, and yeah, I'm excited because we have
Yeah.
Höglander for a few more years. We have Lekkerimaki. We have Pedersen for a long time, so might as well have some fun with it. Yeah,
I was going to ask, sorry to interrupt, but how sticky of an opportunity is this for Lekkerimaki? Like you said, he's here as the Brock Besser that we have at home. So what like is this something where even when Besser comes back, there is a chance to fit him in somewhere, or is this just as soon as Besser is here, then he is going back to being -8 in the American Hockey League?
I think it really depends on how he plays over the next little bit.
Okay,
Like, 'cause we also don't know when Besser is returning. That's the thing too,
right.
because he's out indefinitely. It was switched to day, but that was um, reported incorrectly. So he is still indefinite. It's likely a concussion issue, something around there. Because, look at the hit. Um, yeah, so hopefully he just recovers as well as he can, and once he's back to 100% get back on the ice. He's on a contract year. That's also a pretty big deal. Um,
Right.
so yeah, it really depends. I can't say it all hinges on this one Swedish 20-year-old if we're trading Brock Besser at the deadline. I don't want to think about that right now. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, if Brock Besser comes back within the next couple of weeks and Lekkerimaki is still kind of like he's performing to an NHL level, but since you're having Brock back, you can let him go back down to Abbotsford for a little bit. But I could see him staying up also, especially because the Canucks recently traded Daniel Sprong back to the Seattle Kraken. Um, Dakota Joshua might be coming back, which I know he's on the other wing, but that's probably gonna free up the Garland space on the Pedersen line. Um, I think he stays up for a while. Um, I mean, if Talkett has decided he likes him, he's probably gonna stay up for quite a long time because I mean Archie Baines is still up here. Um, Niels Oman, I can't remember if he's up or down the lineup right now, but he's been back and forth. He was kind of on Talkett's good list last year, not so much this year. Um, and Atu Ratu is getting a lot of praise for a lot of his game. So I mean, there's there's prospects in Vancouver that are actually playing well, and it's nice to see. Um, but yeah, I will tell you, the one player that was on the Flames last year that I would have given up Jonathan Lekkerimaki for, Chris Tanev.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's just more emotionally like,
that's
cause
fair.
yeah, cause I grew up with I gained consciousness when the Canucks were really good, so Chris Tanev being part of that squad, and then like his pairing with Hughes back in the it's just a lot of memories there. But
Yeah.
that was the one player I was like, okay, are they gonna make a third trade? And I was waiting, and then Dallas takes him, and I'm like, are you kidding me? But yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that whole thing from a Flame standpoint, because when the Lindholm trade happens, there was a thing for a second that Tanev was going to be involved in it as well, and it was like, oh, hey, well, maybe my hopes and dreams of Lekkerimaki or Höglander as well. That was still when we had this at the other thing, and I was chatting with Clay about it, and it was like these are the guys who I want, just so you guys know. And now who the Flames ended up getting it pretty good too. Brustevich looks like he's going to be the real deal very soon. So they did okay, but yeah, no, when that whole thing was going down, it looked like okay, maybe this is happening. And then Tanev was also potentially going to be paired up with Markstrom going to New Jersey, and that was potentially going to be a thing at the deadline for a second there, and then all of that didn't happen, and he goes to Dallas for a return that was relatively underwhelming from a Flames fan standpoint. But it was just funny how it was like, okay, well, maybe they're going to do this and get a gigantic prospect A, B, or C from New Jersey, or he can package and go to Vancouver and you get Lekkerimaki or Höglander, or the second and third for Dallas. It's like, oh, okay, well, that was not nearly as fun as it could have been.
And it's a Dallas second and third too, and they're a good team, so they're gonna have a deeper run, and then there's all that anyway. Yeah, I would have given the world for Chris Tanev back on the Canucks. I mean, you know what? At least he's with another Canucks victim in Oliver Ekman-Larsson in Toronto now. So,
Not great.
it yeah. They got shut out tonight by the Sens?
Last I had seen it was 3-0, but that's when I kind of quit paying
Okay.
attention.
I wonder if it got worse. No, it was 3-0. Josh Norris, Tim
That's a
Stützle,
shame.
Michael Amadio scoring for the
Oh, well,
Sens.
of course.
Of course.
Can't stop him. Can only hope to contain him.
Okay, before we talk a little bit more about the Pacific Division, Game Over has you covered after the game, but in order to get ready to watch all the action in the NHL, you've got to get your game on too. Game On Hockey is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the NHL from coast to coast to coast. Get all your NHL news in under 10 minutes, Monday through Friday on the Game Over Network YouTube channel and in podcast form, which you can find on your preferred podcast platforms, as well as the GameOverNetwork.com. Forgot to hide the QR code. That's for the merch. We'll talk about that in a bit. The Pacific Division, which I think has previously been described as not very good, or just kind of wide open. It's getting a little tighter for the Canadian teams in it. Currently, the Canucks sitting at 19 points, with an 8-3-3. Flames with 19 points with an 8-6-3. The Oilers catching up, 8-7-1. Do you think the Flames can break into the playoff picture in this Pacific Division this year? Sorry?
Yeah, nope, not at all. I have zero faith in that whatsoever. Look, this has been fun. The Flames, the winning at the beginning, and oh my gosh, look at everything that is happening. This is a team that is going to go into most games they play this season at a substantial skill deficiency, that they are just not as good as most teams, and we are at a point in the season where if just gosh golly gee you try really hard, you're going to catch some teams who will just be annoyed by that, and that will be enough to get you a win. But as the games start to mean more, that just isn't going to be good enough. Also, I feel fairly confident in saying the goaltending isn't going to be as lights out insane as it has been so far. I like Vladar, I like Wolf, and I think both are going to do all right. I don't know how many 900 plus save percentage nights there are going to be for these guys, because the defense just isn't good enough. Like you saw that in this game. Any cross ice feed the Canucks wanted, they got. And that is not just they're tired thing. That has been that was against Montreal the other night, and not the most dynamic of offensive teams, the Montreal Canadiens. It's a blue line that is going to struggle. It is an offense that is still learning some things, and they're pretty weak down the middle as well. So no, this part has been fun, and I think it has been instructive in helping this young Flames team kind of like that. Teach them this is how you win. This is how we have to play. Like that Kings game the other night. This is the style of hockey we're going to have to play to be successful. The problem is that's really hard to do 82 times a year, as we saw tonight. And also, you can play that way and still lose because other teams are awesome. And so once this thing starts to pick up, I think Vegas just beats their head in, and Edmonton is better than them. Now they're 1-1 to start the year because they caught Edmonton at a pretty good time early on in the year when everything was going sideways for them. They don't play again until March now, and I think by that time things will have turned. I think in both directions. So the long answer, longer. No, no, this team is not a playoff team. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination.
I turned off my mic. I realized that after I started talking.
It just left you speechless. I
I
understand. Yeah, I get it. Just a brilliance across the board. Understood.
I was gonna say, the Montreal Canadiens, like you said, they don't have a dynamic offense. They are tied for the worst goal differential at -21 in the league, with none other than the Pittsburgh Penguins. Hmm. Yeah.
Trade him to Colorado already. Just
Oh,
a quick
no,
aside,
no,
but
no,
just do that.
no, no, no. Colorado doesn't deserve Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, but counterpoint, it'd be awesome. And I get like your team wants to be like competitive and all this. Mine, we're just looking at we're scouting World Junior stuff already. So yeah, no, but your team wants to be like good and win games and stuff. And I can see how that would be annoying for us who we just want to see like awesome hockey. Once it gets to awesome hockey time and our team's done, that would be so cool to see. But yeah,
I
no,
mean,
like from a rest of the league standpoint, it would be very annoying.
no, it's just a personal vendetta I have against the idea of Sidney Crosby in anything other than a Penguins jersey. It's just
Okay, that's fair.
it's because like it's a package deal. Because like, what is Colorado gonna send that way for him and Malkin? Like it's like Dubas said the other. I think it was today. A quote came out where Kyle Dubas said that that everyone except for Crosby is tradable. And somebody brought up a quote that Crosby had made, or somebody had said about Crosby that um, it's him and Gino as a package deal. Like, it's me and Malkin. So, Kyle Dubas, watch your back. That's all I'm going to say. Um, but yeah, um, I think the Oilers, they're catching up. I mean, they also had um, a not great run to start the season. They were also missing, their captain in Connor frickin' McDavid for a while. So there's
Yeah.
that. Um, and hey, I mean, I got terrified. I thought JT Miller was going down and he was our highest point scorer last year, I believe. Yes. And no, instead he just got hit in the midsection, as hockey people would call it.
Yeah.
By none other than Quinn Hughes. So there's that. Um, I am a little wary about the Kings, who are currently the top of the Pacific Division with a 9-5-3. Not sure if that's necessarily sustainable because their goaltenders are Darcy Kemper and David Riddick.
Yeah, they are. If you're looking at a team that's going to fall off, I would say them is a pretty good indication. Yeah, I don't have any faith in that team. I thought that they would maybe bounce back a little bit, just subtracting Pierre-Luc Dubois seems to help teams. And so I thought just not having him around would be a nice little boost. And so far so good. But I still think when you look at the Pacific, it is Vegas, Edmonton, and Vancouver right now. I thought Seattle would be a little bit better than they were or than they are. They've won a couple games in a row now, so maybe it's just a bunch of pieces all kind of coming together here now and figuring things out. So I would even consider having Seattle ahead of the Kings, but they've played some pretty good hockey so far, and maybe they are destined for another run in and getting swept by the Oilers in the first round.
I mean, hey, they got it was 7 and then it was 6 and then it was 5 and yeah, they get swept. I
Have
think
to complete the set.
every year it feels like the same cycle plays out where we think surely the Kings would take a step. Oilers in 5. No, it's Oilers in 4. It's the prophecy. It's foretold.
Yeah.
I want the Seattle Kraken to be good so bad so that the Canucks can play them and we have an actual rivalry that's not just Tyler Myers versus the Kraken. Like, I need a Canucks Kraken rivalry like I need oxygen. Like that's when Seattle was announced as an expansion franchise, that was the one thing I wanted. And either the
Yeah.
Kraken have gotten in or the Canucks have gotten in. They've never been in the playoffs together. Obviously, the Kraken have gotten to the playoffs once. So there's a bit of a difference. The Canucks have also gotten to the playoffs once in the Kraken's existence. So there's that. Um I want that to be a thing. Part of me wants the Golden Knights. I thought they were going to take a dive this season. I really thought they were. I have also been saying that basically since they joined the league. So I have
Yeah.
not been right. um the Kings, yeah, I think they're due for a fall from grace, I think. With because like aren't
Yeah.
you guys supposed to be rebuilding? Like I have no idea what's going on over there. They're almost as confusing as the Detroit Red Wings front office. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that one was weird because like it was going to be a rebuild, but they still had like Brown, Kopitar, and Doughty, so it was going to just kind of be like this. Okay, well we'll get some young guys in here, but it might be a little bit. And then the young guys all just kind of became awesome at the same time, and then they played a style where if you scored twice, they won. But then I think they kind of got over their skis a little bit, trading a couple of those guys for PLD, and they're still in kind of this weird spot where they're like wild card bottom, like second or third Pacific good, but they're not. That there's nothing coming up that's going to launch them any better. So they're kind of just stuck in this. We're going to make the playoffs and lose in 5 games territory every year, and they're not bad enough that they're going to bottom out and fall out of that, but they're not good enough or young enough or have any other prospects coming that they're going to rocket out of that. So they're just kind of stuck as first round cannon fodder right now.
like the Leafs.
Yes, yeah, like significantly less high end talent and expectations. Not quite as funny, but yes, like the Leafs. Yeah,
Not quite, yeah, definitely. Definitely not as funny, but I mean, it was a little funny when Brant Clarke was trying to get into it with Quinn Hughes, and Quinn's just like, it's 3-1. It's 3-1. Like, he could not be bothered. Um, yeah, Golden Knights, I mean, I honestly, I had the Anaheim Ducks as a shoe-in for leading the Pacific Division this year, and they're at
Mm.
that's a joke. I was like, please don't think I was actually serious with that. I know how hockey works. John Gibson can do all he wants, but the Anaheim Ducks are still gonna find a way to lose. And San Jose Sharks, oh boy. That's
yeah,
all I'll say. Okay, I did not come here for Leaf slander. It's a Canadian hockey broadcast. There's going to be Leaf slander. You cannot run from it. Um, I mean, oh wow, I didn't realize how bad Nashville was. Anyway, I was gonna say that the Kings were sort of in the Nashville territory of like perpetual mediocrity. But you know, one's at the
yeah,
bottom of their division, below the Blackhawks, mind you, and the other's at the
yeah.
top of their division, above the 2023 Stanley Cup winners and the 2024 Stanley Cup finalists. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the Preds have a bit of work to do to get up to mediocrity right now. It's been a rough start to the season out there. And when we are, what are they, 16 games into the season, and your GM is talking about, well, maybe we have to do a rebuild, that it's a pretty good sign that things have kind of gone a little sideways for you there.
Luke Shen, what did you do to get on all of these rosters that are rebuilding? I just need to ask a question. Because, like, he was on the
Yeah.
Canucks when the Canucks were bad. He's now back on Nashville. Like, yeah. How do you add Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault and get worse? How do you have how do you lock up UC Saros and get worse? Like,
Yeah, you don't have a center to play with them is, I guess, the short answer to your what I was assuming is a rhetorical question. Because yeah, like you shouldn't get worse in that situation. But there's just it's. I still think that there's enough talent there they can figure it out, and this could just be a growing pains thing. But that's a lot of figuring out that they have to do right now. Their goal differential is -14, so there's a lot of figuring out that they have to do right now.
it's not the worst in the Central though. The St. Louis Blues, -15.
Oh
Great
yeah.
job, Jonathan.
Oh my
Jonathan?
gosh.
Jordan Bennington.
It's
Okay.
the game one starter of the Four Nations Cup, Jordan or Jonathan Bennington to you.
That's why I'm like, I don't want to cheer for Canada, because if he's our starting goaltender, then it's gonna be a rough tournament. Um,
Need a lot of 6-5 wins in there.
yeah, go Sweden. Okay. Before we get into our last little segment here, what better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, you want to make a statement. Did I press the red thing? You want to make a statement with the established design, which is currently on sale, or want to wear your love proudly for. Okay. Want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you just need another coffee to get through the winter, I think I do, we have you covered. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. Okay. Da 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 da. Chat Q&A time. So get your comments, questions, statements, trade proposals, in the chat for the inevitable Canucks All-Star Weekend. Oh wait, no, we don't have that this year.
Oh, the Four Nations weekend to stay on there. Yeah.
Four Nations week, which is also reading week,
Week.
which
Yeah.
yeah. Woohoo, wisdom teeth surgery. Anyway, um
Oh dang.
I was just like, that's probably a good time to do it. Marc-Andre Fleury to start for Canada. Um, thoughts?
I wouldn't. I don't mind bringing him as a number 3 vibes based guy. But I mean, here's the thing. He's not super far off anyway. Like this is not a position that we have done super well at post Carey Price, right? So like if you wanted to go just off of merit, it is yeah, like Bennington, Cam Talbot, Aiden Hill, Montembeau, and then Fleury, maybe Fleury over Montembeau. But we are not like that. That sounds more like we're debating a Spangler Cup roster in 4 years than the Four Nations Cup. So, or whatever best on best may be. So, yeah, no, like I would bring him just because I think he's fun, and I think Sidney Crosby will be there. Let them have fun, social media content for days. But from an actual winning standpoint, Lord Almighty help us. Probably wouldn't be what I would do.
Yeah, I'm with you there. At the same time, it's not like Canada has a lot of good goalies. Our most experienced active Canadian NHL goalies: Marc-Andre Fleury, James Reimer, Cam
He
Talbot,
of the waivers today. Yeah.
yeah, Cam Talbot, Jake Allen, Darcy
Oh my
Kemper,
God.
Jordan Bennington, Tristan Jarry, Mackenzie Blackwood, Montembeau, Aiden Hill. Then Calvin Pickard, and then Stuart Skinner. That's just games played with, let's see, highest save percentage active NHL goalies is Cam Talbot. Logan Thompson,
Yeah.
4th best.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, you put it like that.
Chat, we're cooked. We are cooked.
That's fine. The other countries don't have good goaltending either, right? It's not like the States is deciding between Vezina Trophy winners over the last few years or anything like that. We'll be fine. It's okay.
The rest of the teams, I mean, I was about to say they're lucky that Russia's not in it because Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky, like you're cooked.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, yeah, because oh yeah, you have Hellebuck, Demko if he's healthy. There's other Americans, I just completely forget about them.
Swayman's American, right?
Hmm?
Swayman American, or am I out to lunch
He's
on that?
American.
No, he's something else.
He's Alaskan.
Yeah. Anchorage, Alaska. That's close enough to Canada. We can claim that.
Yay! Jeremy Swayman, come here. Um, oh my God. Active Canadian NHL goalies, Devin Levi is on the list. Oh wait, there's only 20. No, there's 19 active NHL Canadian goalies. There's 19.
Yeah, so not exactly like Cujo, Brodeur, Waugh going to who's
Luongo,
that 98?
even.
Yeah,
Get him
yeah.
out of retirement. Carey Price.
I honestly, I don't know who we were throwing out there in the non-NHL Player Olympics, but it can't be far off what's happening right now.
I'm pretty sure it was Devin Levi for at least 2022. Canada Hockey Roster Olympics. Rosters, men's hockey. Yeah, Devin Levi. Edward Pasquale, who played in the KHL, I think. And Matt Tompkins, who plays in the AHL currently. Those were our goalies in 2022.
And look, we're not far off now.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, this is kind of the precursor for the Olympics next year, if they're allowed to go. But, okay, ice hockey. Details. Rosters. Men. Canada. Our goaltender. Oh, Lord. Ben Scrivens.
Oh, that's right.
Kevin Poulin. And Justin Peters.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Old World Junior Alumni game.
It was the oldest team in the tournament.
That checks out.
Who ended up winning the gold that year? Was Russia. We got bronze.
Hey, there we go.
And
Scrivens, Olympic bronze medalist. Called it. Knew it. Right from the beginning.
Knew it. Mason Raymond, Canucks legend.
Flames legend too. We got a crossover. He was both of ours.
Maxime
Alberta. He's a car dealership owner now.
Maxime Lapierre, Canucks legend.
I just remember the most punchable face maybe in the history of the sport.
I just remember
maybe in the history of faces.
I just remember Mason Raymond. He broke his back in the Stanley Cup final that year. My first NHL game was his return, and it was only his return because they forgot to do the paperwork for the game before that. So he returned on my 9th birthday, and there was a whole thing about it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I found out years later he could have returned the game that happened like a few days before, but no, they just forgot to do the paperwork for it. Anyway, questions in chat. Kaja, assuming the Canucks make the playoffs, what Western Conference team are you most least scared of out of likely playoff teams? I'm scared for the Canucks' sake of the Vegas Golden Knights because they cannot perform for their lives against the Vegas Golden Knights for some reason. I'm scared of the Winnipeg Jets because I think everyone should be scared of the Winnipeg Jets. I think they could realistically get away against the Minnesota Wild. Colorado Avalanche, they probably turn things around. I think that I'm just basing off like who's in the top 4 in each division here, but Colorado Avalanche, if they turn things around, which they most likely will, I think could also be an issue for the Canucks because they do not know how to play in Colorado. Dallas, I think the Canucks could overtake. Maybe that's just me being naive. Edmonton, depends on what they do later on in the season. And LA, I think, is a cakewalk for the Canucks. Peter, after the Flames start to the year, do you see this team ever truly bottoming out?
Yes, I do. I know that they started off quite well here, but this is not a good team. I cannot stress that part enough. So yes, no, I do. I know that the message from ownership and all of that has been, we don't rebuild here, we just retool. We don't even know what the word rebuild is or anything like that. But then you see the roster moves that were made are not that of a team that is looking to make a push towards the playoffs or something like that. So I do think that this team will bottom out. Now, we just discussed bottoming out in a world where the San Jose Sharks and Anaheim Ducks exist in your division can be tricky when you play them multiple times a year and you just happen to keep beating them and they lose to everybody. And lottery luck I know who I am talking to Canucks wise, but lottery not luck has never really been on the Flames side before. So I don't know how much that will help. But no, I do think that this will be a team that is probably picking pretty high up in the draft. And just a note for people who may not know on this one, they kind of have to, because if the pick is outside the top 10 and there's a weird contingency with a 4-1, then that pick goes to Montreal. So that would be less than ideal. That was a trade away to send Sean Monahan to Montreal along with that pick to free up the cap space so the Flames could sign Nazem Kadri. Has gone tremendously well so far. But yeah, there's 100 different little things on that. I made the joke with Mark on the last crossover I did that I think that trade is the reason why Cap Friendly sold, because there's just too many things. It just like overloaded the website and they were just like, no, we can't deal with this thing anymore. It's out of here. Because it's like top 1 protected, and then if the Panthers pick is like worse than the Flames, then the Flames pick goes here. Unless it's top whatever, then it goes to Florida. Like it is all these different iterations that are really difficult to follow. But basically, the Flames have to suck, and if they're only kind of bad, then their pick probably goes to Montreal this year, which would be an unmitigated disaster in what was a salary dump for a guy who has gone on to have several productive years in the NHL since. And over.
Yeah. Oh, the Flames. You guys are fun because it reminds me of us like a few years ago. Because when you said well yeah, we don't rebuild here, we retool. That just gave me flashbacks to the Benning era of just everything being awful. And that was from Zach. Shout out Zach from Game Over Toronto. And who is bigger steal, Lincoln and Sherwood or Brandstrom?
Who is the bigger steal?
I'd say Lankinen.
Yeah.
In terms of how much he's played for the Canucks.
That's fair. Brandstrom, I still have like in my head as, oh, he was the centerpiece of the Stone trade, wasn't he? So I still have post-hype prospecty thing on him. So there's a little bit of me that's like, oh yeah, no, he's gonna figure it out at some point, but he probably won't. So I will definitely defer to your expertise on this one.
I think in the short term right now it's Lankinen. In the long term it's Brandstrom. That's okay. What I'll say, because Lankinen, he's our best goalie right now. But that's also because our Vezina finalist Thatcher Demko is on Robidaw Island again. So I don't think I said that right, but the island in Toronto where everyone that's injured goes.
Yeah. Oh, the Robidaw one. That was the reference. That was good.
You nailed it. Cool. Awesome. I'm just in it with all the Leafs slander tonight.
Yeah.
Peter, assuming the Flames make the playoffs, what Eastern team are you most scared of? So
if we get to that point, none of them, because at that point it is all systems go, and something weird has happened, and the Flames have traded for Crosby, and they're the ones who are making the run. Yeah, if we're getting to the point where they're talking about East teams, I mean, look, I think I made it pretty clear. I think most of them in the East are probably better than the Flames team, and if we're talking about them in the playoffs, then yes, no, all of them. But if the Flames are in, it's all systems go. Sea of red, baby. We're parading down 17th Ave. All the way to our building that's going to fall apart. We are just right out there and lighting the world on fire and all those sorts of things.
Oh, no, that's our thing. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. That was really good. That was good. Excellent work.
I was going to say, imagine it's Game 7, overtime. You're about to win. Like, Jonathan Hubert is about to score the Stanley Cup winning goal, and then the roof just caves in on the Saddledome.
Yeah.
I feel like that sums up the Flames at the
a light
current
would burn
moment.
out or something. Yeah, no, everything would just completely fall apart there. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Flames could still beat the Leafs even if they used the Wranglers roster as long as it was a Stanley Cup playoff series. I
I don't like obviously the Leafs get more of the attention because I mean they were there more and stuff like that. But like the Flames have won like one or two playoff series since '04 when they made that run to the Stanley Cup final. Like everyone talks about the Leafs because they're a whole lot of fun to make fun of, and Lord knows I do it as well. But the Calgary Flames have a remarkable run of being average to below average and not really getting a whole lot done. And then the one time they did win a playoff series, the Oilers came in and curb stomped him and forever changed Jacob Markstrom and basically the entire course of Flames history. So even when we do well, it doesn't end well for us.
yeah, you guys score 9 goals in game 1 and then immediately fall apart.
Yeah, and then
That's
the entire roster changed and it's been downhill since.
yeah. That series was fun though. I mean, game 1
Oh
was
yeah, that
fun.
was great.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
excellent watching from somebody that's decently far removed from that. So, considering my team almost made the playoffs but didn't with like 2 games left to go. They could have made the playoffs if like 7 games previously Adam Gaudette hadn't won the shootout for Ottawa.
Oh, that's right.
2021-22, I was at that game and Adam Gaudette comes up to shoot and I'm like, he's gonna score. This is it. And then the Canucks go on a losing skid and they lose any chance of making the playoffs. But then
Oh,
we
wow.
draft Jonathan Lekkerimaki, and that was the Bruce There It Is season. Yeah, we draft Jonathan Lekkerimaki, and now we're here tonight. Peter will like this one. This is from Zach. I was actually in the building for the other second round the Flames have been a part of since '04 when Gaudreau sent Game 3 against the Ducks to OT in 2015, and Sam Bennett had an "it was in Redux" moment.
Yeah, that was I was actually there as well. From a media standpoint, I was down in the bowels of the dome when Gaudreau scored, and that was the time where I did think the building was going to fall apart because our studio down there was legitimately shaking when Gaudreau sent the game to overtime, and then they win it after. They lose that series 4 games to 1, but yeah, there was a because in '04, just a quick thing, it looked like Martin Jelena had scored in Game 6 to win the Stanley Cup, but in angles and stuff like that. And then there was a similar thing in 2015 where it looked like Sam Bennett had scored, and then he actually didn't. But, yes, the Flames won that game, and one of the great Johnny Gaudreau moments here in Calgary, for sure.
Yeah, I think the greatest the greatest goal he scored. It was another playoffs game. It was another OT goal. It was the Dallas one. Like,
Oh, yeah.
nothing can
Yeah.
beat that.
No.
That was the only playoff game I've ever been to. Don't think anything can top it though.
I mean, look, it's a pretty good one to go to. For the Canucks fans here, because that was the year that the Flames beat the Canucks in the first round of the playoffs, and it was the Bieksa Ferkland drama thing that was happening there. I was covering that and rode the elevator with Alex Edler, who was banged up at the time, and that was kind of it was one of those, like, we were talking about how one-sided a particular game was, and the elevator opens and there's like 4 people from the Canucks there, and cutting up now. So that was a quick story from there.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in an elevator with Alex Edler, I think I'd probably scream. But, they're like, oh my gosh, it's the Eagle, and he'd just be like standing there. Because it's Alex Edler.
Shockingly handsome in person, for sure.
Yeah, I remember when he came back to Vancouver with the Kings. It was his first game back since he signed with them. It was his first game back at Rogers Arena since he signed with the Kings. And it was also the first night behind the bench for Bruce Boudreau, so all of the attention was somewhere else.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, and then the Canucks won in a shootout. No, not in a shootout. That was later. It was a shutout. That's what I meant to say. It was a shutout. All right. I think we've been talking for a while. I think good to wrap it up for tonight's show.
Sounds good to me. Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me, Peter. And thank you all for watching, for tuning in, whether you're watching it live or listening on a podcast form a day later or anything. Thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging with us as, we talk about the, I don't want to say historic, but it is pretty historic rivalry between the Flames and the Canucks. I don't know what it is between these two teams, but they just really do not like each other, even if they played on the same team last year, calling Andrei Kuzmenko. But then Connor Garland was fighting with Dakota Joshua during training camp last year, so there's that. Anyway, where can people find you?
Primetime Klein on basically any social media platform, twitch.tv/primetimepk. Also, I just want to give a bit of a shout out to my niece. You may have seen throughout, but fancy manicure over the weekend. She insisted I come with her and insisted that I have this color. So I'm insisting on calling her out on the internet for that. So, but yeah, shout out to my lovely 3-year-old niece for helping accessorize me for this stream and several others as this stuff slowly chips away.
I was going to say awesome nail color.
Thank you.
It does look very nice. Yeah.
Well, and complementary color with the with the orange too, right? So it pops,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what we were going for. Yeah.
Okay. I've been Kaja Antic. You can find me Kaja May basically everywhere. Check out Peter on Game Over Calgary. This has been Game Over Vancouver. The Vancouver Canucks beat the Calgary Flames 3-1 at Rogers Arena, and the Canucks earned their second home win of the season. We're a month in. Woo! Okay. Good night, everybody.